Hello and welcome to The Agenda with me, Graham Hughes, and Phil Moorhouse. How you doing, Phil? You
I'm all right, thank you. Yes.
Yeah? From A Different Bias. If you're not already subscribed to Different Bias, you really should. And just a big shout out to Scott and SG, Hating Puds, One Angry Pagan, Veg Pike, Dave W in the chat, and others. If you'd like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button. We only need about 150 more subscribers, and we will hit 42,000, and that'll be really cool. So please let people know. That would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit today about Labour and how much of a mountain they have to climb at the moment in terms of getting back the sort of levels of popularity that they enjoyed just 11 fleeting months ago, Phil, when they won that landslide election.
After their popularity increased after the election because initially it was all action and positivity.
Was it?
Yeah, no, their poll rating went up. Starmer's
I meant positivity.
No, it was. I had one of my most viewed videos was on just like ministerial appointments. There was some really good stuff coming out. All of it was positivity. Then the riots happened, not really their fault. And they dealt with that as well as you would expect them to do. And that was fine, even though they took a bit of a knock, because at the end of that, but that should have been a lesson to them. When you are the government, you are going to take a knock for anything that happens, whether it's your fault or not. Even if you deal with it really well, you're going to get the blame. Labour should have known that anyway, because the way they dealt with the global banking crisis was really good, and they got a lot of international plaudits for it. As far as everyone else was concerned, we had an economic bashing, and you're the government. But then after it, they chose to go into negativity, like properly went into negativity.
Yeah. This is when Starmer was like, the end of the world is nigh, but it's going to get a lot worse before then. It was like,
and this is why when I was told
that.
Exactly. When I was told very recently that with their winter fuel allowance thinking, it was because people have priced in the fact that things will get worse before they get better. I thought, I don't believe that, because I had seen polling that said the opposite. I don't believe Labour, I don't believe the polling I saw was wrong. So I think they were just basing it on the sort of stuff that most people, when they're talking about politics at an amateur level, you do around the pub and you all just reason it out empirically according to your own life experiences. And that's what they did, but you're not supposed to do that in government. You're supposed to base it on cold, hard data, and they clearly hadn't. So they completely misjudged the mood, and stupidly, because they could have made sure that they polled people. They could have found out what people were expecting, and they should have done.
Yeah, it did seem like a series of own goals that Labour have,
They were unforced errors. Errors.
But the Tories aren't doing much better at the moment, are they?
Well, interestingly, they are actually now showing signs of a little bit of hope.
Really?
In two ways, yes. In two ways. I haven't had time to talk about it because other events have overtaken.
Yeah.
However, officially, so Mel Stride, who's the shadow chancellor, is making. I don't know whether he's made the speech yet or is about to. This is the problem. The Tories are now so irrelevant that although I sort of know what's going on, I don't know when it's going on because no one can be asked to report on it. But he is or has made a speech basically saying, explicitly attacking Liz Truss's economic ideas and saying the Conservatives will never do this again. So that is them, for the first time since Badenoch took over, since the election, actually not just saying we failed people, but in a very specific way that actually the public will agree with. Because a lot of Badenoch's direction has tended to be along the way, oh yeah, we let the people down by not going further on the shit we were doing that pissed people off, right? This is the downside to it for the Conservatives is it's the right message delivered by the wrong messenger, because Mel Stride has zero personality. It will have zero impact. Like I say, I don't even know if that speech has been delivered yet or not. I just knew. It's like, how when you get a big speech, they leak it to the media so they can start reporting on what they're going to say before they say it. So that's where I've read it. But I don't know if the speech has taken place yet, because he's as interesting as a sack of shit.
Honestly, I couldn't pick out Mel Stride. I've got no idea what he looks like. I've seen him give talks. I've seen him stand up in Parliament, and every time I see him, it's a surprise because I feel like I've never seen him before. Do you know what I mean? He's just like one of those
he has
people.
no personality.
No,
Yeah.
he's just one of those people that just falls out your head.
Well, but he won't get them. But it's the right message.
Yeah.
But he won't get it to the public. But it is the right message, and the fact that he will say it suggests others could potentially take it. So that is them starting to realise they're going to have to apologise for the stuff they did.
Yeah.
And then another positive thing, although this is much more unofficial, is James Cleverly is going to stand up again. I don't know whether he's done it or not because he's got a similar problem, but he's going to stand up and argue against the Tories moving away from like net zero things. He's going to actually champion environmental cause and say this is actually, the climate causes are, and he's going to do it from, as a Conservative would, from an economic point of view, talking about the importance to our economy.
I was reading a really interesting article about how the insurance companies were going to be the ones pushing for mitigation against climate change more than anyone else because they're not going to be able to function in a world where there's a disaster every 5 minutes because of climate change.
We already have a situation in this country where some people cannot get house insurance.
Yeah,
because their house gets flooded every year.
Yeah. Let's build on floodplains. It's a great idea. It's a strange thing though. We don't want to build on the green belt because that would be awful. But so we building floodplains instead. Humans are weird. SG, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. As Phil used to be a teacher, would he mind giving Labour some statistics and critical thinking lessons? Please and thank you.
They don't listen to me.
You don't listen to Phil, unfortunately.
I don't. Interestingly, I was invited to London this week. I was in London this week specifically to explain to a well-funded organisation, not just me, others as well, how to communicate on social media.
Wow.
But it wasn't Labour. It was a climate group. It wasn't Labour.
Fair enough. But yeah, they need to learn. They all need to learn. Dark 4x4 is channeling their inner Monty Python, saying, I came here for an argument. Anyone who's a Monty Python fan should get that reference. Brad W, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's very kind of you. Starmer couldn't be found for comment on the by-election and Yusuf resigning news. He was busy trying to hide his boner before going to before the cameras. Oh, hey, Brad, bit too graphic there.
Unless that's in a like Ardlo Hanlon type situation, because Starmer's shit scared of the cameras. That's half the problem.
Yeah. Well, we talk about this. He looks like a rabbit in headlights. But yeah, MZ is saying 100% critical thinking, focused on human beings, being humans. I mean, the thing with social media, it isn't that difficult. It's just a lot of work. Like, the work isn't that hard. It's just there's a lot of it. And you've got to be committed and you've got to make content. And you can't just expect to make a really well-crafted video once every 6 months with nothing leading up to that. And just dropping it on the internet and going, watch my video. And
but they don't even do that. Yeah. They do the sort of videos they put out, and it's not just Labour, it's like all of it. I don't even just mean political parties, I mean the big ones like, I've talked recently about Greenpeace. They do the same thing. They do these like corporate videos. They're the sort of videos you show to a captive audience. They've already turned up to your events, they're already on board, and you just show it as a bit of glitz, right? But that doesn't work to bring people in, it's not engaging. But that's what they put out there.
Yeah.
So they spend time. They've got people. It's not like, oh no, we're not interested in comms. They've got a big comms team. It must be expensive. They've got people who can do it really well, but they're just not utilising them properly.
You're right about the captive audience. Also, it's like a training video in work that you're forced to watch. Like you wouldn't just click on an ad. It's an advert. Why would you click on an advert? People don't want that. They want a human connection. They want to have a bit of back and forth. They want to put funny shit into the comments. That's what YouTube allows you to do, and to not like maximize that just blows my mind.
You have to. If I were invited to go and talk to some of them and go through some things, the first thing I would do is I would ask them to bring up what they thought were their 5 best pieces of the last year, and I would then ask them in each case, what is the value to your intended audience? What are they getting out of this video?
Yeah.
because I can see what they want. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking, we want to get this message to people, but they're not thinking, but what do those people want?
Yeah.
What brings them to the yard?
My milkshake.
Yeah.
It brings all the
There's
boys
no
to the yard.
milkshake.
There's no
That's the
milkshake.
problem.
Give
There
us
is
some
no
milkshake. But you know, if Greenpeace, for instance, had a daily show that we knew it was going out live at a certain time every day, and it was just a couple of people at Greenpeace having a talk about what the issues are, focus on a different place around the world. I mean, there's enough content to talk about climate change and how it's affecting different communities around the world to keep you going for the next 50 fucking years, doing a show every day.
There are people who do it. There are people who do off their own back.
Yeah.
Climate change videos.
Yeah.
And some of them are bigger channels than mine, and some of them aren't, but they're all bigger than Greenpeace.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what Greenpeace could do. That's what Labour could do. They could do videos every day. Just two people, 5 o'clock, 5 till 6, whatever. There's a live video, goes out, live streaming with comments. But you've got to be a member to be able to comment or something like that to keep the trolls at bay. And yeah, just have a conversation, bring people in and answer questions that come into the chat. And this seems like an absolute no-brainer to me and you, but it's amazing how big these companies are, or pressure groups, political parties, whatever, and they just don't get it. Is it complicated? Could someone tell us in the chat why they think they don't get it? Like, what? Is it just like older people who don't understand the internet and they get some whiz kids along who think they know what they're doing, but they don't really? They're only there because they're
They don't even have the whiz kids. They're older people. That's the problem.
What, they get older people?
They've just got older people. I was talking to someone who sort of was telling me, because he's been involved on the inside, and he says it won't change until the next generation come in. But I said to them, but then the next generation will be out of touch, because they'll be in touch with the way things are now. But you're talking 15 years time, so they'll still be out of date. It's a never-ending problem. You can't, even if you keep refreshing the people in charge, they're still going to be 15, 20 years behind.
Yeah.
Until you face facts. They need to be, like, we had this attitude for years that Keir Starmer was really ruthless and stuff like that, and in many ways he was. But on this, is not. It should be really simple. Is your social media output getting the sort of views that it should? No, then it's failing.
Yeah.
It's failing.
Yeah.
And you cannot accept failure, because you are a political party, a political group is only as strong as its connection to the public.
Yeah. And
the connection to the public is weak. And it's provably weak because of their output on social media, and it's provably weak because of the voting intention polls. Yeah. Like Labour and 10 Downing Street, when they're discussing things, they cannot say this is fine. It's not fine.
Yeah. Gareth T, who has been a member of the channel for 11 months, thank you very much, Gareth, says, if only Labour learnt to use social media. Eye roll emoji. And Peter Paints Gartner is saying, not the comms, the policies. Not a coincidence. Labour dropped 10 points due to the proposed PIP changes. Abandon the PIP policies and Labour might go back into the lead. I think it's both.
And again, you're over. The PIP thing is really serious in some areas, but that's not going to impact the overall national voting intention. It's absolutely not that. Labour are doing a lot of really good things as well, and people never bring it. Everyone here is politically engaged, and yet so many people don't actually know. You keep seeing comments about the fact that Labour are getting everything wrong. No, they're not. They're getting almost everything right. They are getting some things badly wrong, but they're not communicating the things they're doing well. And the irony is, and it feeds into it, because Labour aren't communicating the things they're doing well, people don't know about them, so they only focus on the things they're doing badly, which will of course be amplified by the media, the mainstream media, the legacy media, because the Tory media will attack everything Labour do, and even the media that might be willing to give them a chance is still going to focus mostly on the negative stuff, because that's how the media will naturally operate. And that can apply on social media as well. So then what Labour do is they see they're failing. As a result of their failure, Reform UK succeed. They see Reform UK they fail to understand that Reform UK are succeeding simply because they're a third choice. That's it. People are now seeing them as a credible third choice. And that's it. They're not succeeding because of their stance on immigration or energy issues or anything like that. For some, that's true, and for others, it's in spite of it. So Labour are now trying to do what the Tories are doing. Like, we've literally heard of Labour MPs in the Red Wall going, we need to deal with the small boats, otherwise Reform UK will eat us alive. And it's like, well, they should deal with the small boats, but at the same time, you're just making the same mistake the Tories did. Rishi Sunak lent into the small boats issue and it destroyed him. What they should do is talk about issues Reform UK don't want to talk about. Why would you talk about the issues that Nigel Farage wants you to talk about? That's madness. There's a saying in sport, but it applies in politics. Do the opposite of what your opponent wants you to do.
Yeah, yeah. Don't interrupt when your opponent's making a mistake. Gareth T, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. So kind of you. 11 months I've listened to you two. 11 months ago, I was a prison officer on the brink of a nervous breakdown. Graham, we still need a chat on prisons. Yes, we do. Give me an email. I think you got my email, haven't you now? Give me an email about it to remind me. Otherwise, it's like, honestly, ADHD and trying to get things organised don't go hand in hand. I need a secretary. I need an editor. I need a producer. Paula, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. PIP is tremendously important. It is now what is setting the tone of cruelty. And John Hart, I agree. John Hart is saying, Harold Wilson, thank you very much for the super chat, once stated the Labour Party is a penny farthing operation in the jet age. That was in the 1960s. It would seem it still is.
Well, no, it's now a jet in the space shuttle age. It's further ahead than where it was, but it's still behind the curve. It's always behind the curve. You could argue, I mean, it looked a lot better the last time it was in government because it had a much slicker media operation then, and the Conservatives were terrible, and there was no one else challenging them.
Yeah.
No one, anywhere.
I still think Labour are very much trapped in the past, and the way that they conduct their electioneering, the way that they do the comms, it's like it is just fax machines and pages. It's bizarre, and being in the thick of it, like just seeing what they do in Labour Party HQ and around here in for Labour, it's like they seem to think you can either go and deliver leaflets and knock on doors, or it's doing social media. Like, you can't do both for some reason. And the fact that you've got all these MPs, and I've spoken to a number of MPs who have made stuff for social media, right? But they have no idea about how to put it online, how to, where to put it, what platform to put it on, what time to put it on, what the blurb to write, what the tags are, how to do the thumbnail, all that kind of stuff. They don't know. And the fact that there's no one in Labour to ask. Like, they
have zero social media experts.
300. There's only 300 MPs, right? You'd need a team of maybe, 3 or 4 people to be the 400. IT help desk for those people. That's it.
But there's 400 odd. But at the same time, you are right. Labour could easily afford to have, I mean, I say they should have a small, and it would only need to be, you could do it with 2 people, but a small team of people to manage their own official social media stuff. But you're right, they could also hire a couple of people just to help MPs do their own.
Yeah.
And it would be really easy.
And they just give them a call and say, what do I do? And they can say, right, I'll take over your computer and I'll do it all for you.
But Brilliant. At the moment, they have zero people. Or if they have anyone at all in Labour who know how to use social media, they're not being listened to. So they have 0 people who have any say in Labour that know how to do it.
Yeah.
None at all.
And he's saying Corbyn was stuck in the 70s, Starmer is stuck in the 90s. I don't really have much to argue on.
The social media, actually, when Corbyn took over, did actually improve a bit.
That was momentum.
It did get a bit better. Oh, it was, fair enough, yeah. But I mean, that was his, group. Yeah. But it still got better. It doesn't really matter where it came from. It got better. But then it stalled.
Phil, he didn't have a group. He had groupies.
Well, either way. Nonetheless, it still improved. It still got better.
Yeah.
And then it's even then it stalled. By the time 2019 came around, then they were
you're not wrong.
They were nowhere on social media.
Matt can't play. £2 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. What's the odds of conference forcing key U-turns?
So, I mean, I would see the way I think about it this way: conference is always asking Labour to do something that will lose it the next election. So I think you're always going to have this situation where a lot of people in Labour, like at the top of it, in the leadership and the strategies, will have a bit of wariness about conference issues. I think they probably view it, the fortress mentality, I think, will come in. They'll sort of view it as an obstacle because, honestly, Labour members, just like members of any political party, are constantly wanting their party to do something that will cost them the next election. So I think probably very slim. You need to persuade them. And also it's very in your face. Motions at conference can be very in your face. Whereas what you really need to do is to persuade them that the line they're taking is not going to yield dividends and it's actually just making things worse. And I don't know how that's not obvious, but it clearly isn't obvious.
Yeah,
because they're still doing it.
We've got a message coming from David who says, to be fair, Starmer needs groupies, can't see people enthusiastically knocking on doors to campaign for him and Reeves. But then they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be knocking on doors to campaign for Starmer and Reeves. They should be campaigning for Labour. They should be campaigning to make things better in the local community via the Labour mechanisms in order to, get people to vote for them. And I don't like personality politics. I don't like the fact that, that's the only thing with Reform. Reform are a bit like Doctor Who villains. Like, if you took out the main ship, which is Farage, if you yeeted him into the sea, then there would be no Reform. That is it. It would just crumble and burn, just like UKIP did without him. He is just holding that whole thing together. And the same with that. And the MAGA movement, when Trump goes, the MAGA movement goes as well, because it is all a personality cult. It's not going to be carried on by JD.
I think Reform UK can carry on without him. It won't. He is definitely a boost to them. But it did. I mean, he stepped away from it. He was leader of it to begin with.
Yeah.
And it was nowhere. It was competing with UKIP. And then he stepped away because he couldn't be arsed with it. And Richard Tice is the one who actually took it to the point where it could compete in the election. Yeah, Farage then, when he came back, then boosted it. But I mean, this is my question about Yusuf leaving, because Richard Tice is actually the one who built Reform UK. Now, admittedly, he was given a huge helping hand by the Conservatives with the small boats rise because of their various policies, including Brexit. But nonetheless, it's Richard Tice who brought that party from like being on 1%, 2% in the polling to like 13, 11, 12, 13%. Yeah. Farage boosted it when he came back, but not with any organisation, not with his leadership. Yeah. He was just the cult leader who'd come back. So that just gave it that boost. But nothing to do with the last general election was anything to do with him organisationally. Yeah. And then since that, it's grown even more. Why? Because Zia Yusuf was doing the organisation. Nigel Farage is the leader, but he's not doing any organising. Yeah. He's just there with the microphone. Zia Yusuf has actually been the one organising. So now that he's gone, what happens? Do they get someone else in who can do the organising?
Aaron Banks.
Or maybe.
Tim Becks, thank you very much for this £5 super chat. Come on, you two, get down to Downing Street and sort them out, please.
It's like iron bars in the way.
Also, fiver's not going to get us down to London, mate. We live in the north. Well, thank you anyway. But yeah, it's quite expensive to get down to the big smoke these days. Chris C says, another thing Labour can do now is force water companies to reduce their bills and take the hit on the profits.
So, right. The bills thing, well, they already are on the profit side of it. The bills thing, no, because we need the investment. We're now actually getting some reservoirs built. That needs paying for. We're the ones paying for it. There is no one else to pay for it. So the bills won't go down. What needs to happen is the profits need to go down. That may happen. Yeah. That could actually happen, because one of the ideas being looked at is turning them into like Welsh Water, which is not nationalised, but it is not for profit. So you remove profit out of it, and the only thing to focus on is the service.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hoping that people will look at what Labour are doing to these bosses and telling them that they can't have the bonuses anymore.
Yeah, but they need to tell people they're doing these
record-breaking. Well, it was on the front cover of some newspapers today, so that's a bonus. But yeah, Labour are always reliant on someone else to toot their horn, and just take it from me. Take it from someone who's had to toot their own horn for many, many years. No fucker's going to do it for you. You've got to do it for yourself.
Exactly. Well, this is it. This is what I would like to explain to them. The Tory media are obviously going to attack Labour wherever they can. And the
Yeah.
non-Tory media are still going to focus outrage sells. Like, I can get away with it. I don't have to go for the outrage stuff because I only have to support myself. So I can do what I like. But they have to focus on getting the maximum number of clicks in a very, very competitive field these days. We used to have a situation when I was very small. You had 3 television channels and you had like half a dozen newspapers. There was no real competition. And a lot of people read newspapers and watched television because there's nothing else to do. There's no internet or anything. So the industry itself, the news media industry, has gone from being very uncompetitive to being super competitive. I mean, they're competing with people like me. So, an outrage sells. So even the ones that aren't hostile towards Labour are still going to be focusing on the stuff they're getting wrong. So Labour, if they want the stuff that they're getting right to come out, they have to do it themselves. They need to do press conferences every day, like Trump does. I mean, what did Trump do when that thing was, blowing up? He was already. I mean, he started it with his thing with Merz, didn't he?
What thing? What
with
thing?
Musk. With Musk.
Oh yeah, that
and
thing.
he started it with Musk, but then he carried on. He had journalists in just to talk about the Musk thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You get journalists in, then they've got to report on what you're saying. Because what else are they going to do? Though, you think about if Keir Starmer had journalists round every single day. It takes time to get there because you can't just rock up to 10 Downing Street. You've got to get there. You've got to get yourself through 2 sets of security just to get inside the building. Then you've got to get, to where the press conference has been held. So it takes you time. Even though London's got a good transport system, it's still going to take you time to get there. Then there's the press conference itself. Then he's bound to offer you a few little drinkies before you go and have a little chat and stuff. Then you've got to go back to your office, again, going through all those layers of, although it's much easier to get out of Downing Street than into it. That's the whole morning. That's your morning, right? So of course you're then going to spend the rest of your day writing about what was being discussed there. So Keir Starmer he can decide what journalists talk about. I keep saying, he can't decide how they're going to present it, but he can decide what they're going to talk about.
Yes, which they don't do because they're bloody idiots. We've got a question that come in, but first of all, I'll just, Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Graham, stop tooting your own horn, you'll go blind. Yeah, it's why I need glasses, my friend. Very high prescription glasses. We had a question come in from Chrissy, and I think this is a really good question. And we know the answer, but like, I think it's something that a lot of people in this country are feeling. Phil, why should the bill player pay more for investment when for decades the shareholders have creamed the profit and not invested in the infrastructure?
Because you'd still get no infrastructure if you don't pay for it. Where's the money come from?
Yeah, it's really shit.
The money. It's not. They didn't. All that money that they were borrowing and piling up in the debt, they didn't put it in a big pile. It's not in a room somewhere you can raid or even a bank account. It's gone. It's legally gone as well. You can't chase it after it. It's not corruption. It was legal. A lot of it's not even in the country. 90% of it's not corruption.
Systemic
the government
corruption.
allowed them to do it. It's not corruption if the government allows you to do it. So
state-sanctioned plunder,
but
pillaging of our common resources. Of our water.
when you vote for a government, you are implicitly voting for them to decide how to spend the money on your behalf. So, and most of the money's out of the country anyway. You try going to someone in Dubai and saying, Mr. Tice, can we have some of that money back, please? He'll tell you to get knotted. Yeah. And nothing you can do about it. So if we want the infrastructure, it needs paying for. And the thing is now as well, you can't as easily borrow for it because the cost of, when the Tories were in power, as a consequence of various things, the Conservatives in their 14 years of power, or most of those 14 years of power, like good 11 years of them, had very low cost of borrowing. They had a golden opportunity to borrow for infrastructure, national infrastructure, cheaply, and they blew it. They didn't do it. But now it's expensive to borrow. So now we've got a government that's willing to borrow for infrastructure, but it's now more expensive to do it.
Yeah.
So you can't even just raise a load of money via loans to pay for it because it costs too much to pay it back. So because that would be the option. Not have bills go up quite so much, borrow more for it, but it's actually cheaper for bill payers to pay the higher bills now than it is later.
Yeah. If we did a talk at the Labour Party conference, we did a fringe event outside the conference called "Why Doesn't Labour Understand Social Media?" Would you be one of the speakers? Would you come over to Liverpool?
Possibly, yeah. Yes. I mean, we tried that before, didn't we? They didn't listen. Well, that was inside. Except I can't get inside it nowadays.
No one came to that one though, because we got moved around. We got moved from 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and then it was Starmer's speech, wasn't it? Got moved again. Yeah. But the external one that we did in the Ship and Mitre, that was not the Ship and Mitre. Yeah. It was the Camp and Furnace that time. Paula, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. But you cannot compensate them for their shares when you nationalise it.
No, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to suggest. You can't just steal a company.
Can't you?
No.
They've been stealing from us for years.
No, they haven't, because it's been legal.
Change the law then, can't you?
No. Not in this. This would be. It's very. First of all, it's very unconstitutional, and the thing is as well. Let me give you a parallel example.
Unwritten constitution, mate. Not worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah, it is. Vellum. The vellum it is written on.
Not worth the vellum is written on.
It is. The parallel situation, Ukraine. So the UK government is well up for all those, those frozen Russian assets. We are well up for just giving it to Ukraine, right? Now, countries in Europe are not so keen. Now, the reason they're not so keen is not because they're not pro-Ukraine, not because they're too pro-Russia. It is because they worry that if they just hand over those frozen assets to Ukraine, even though there's an understanding that they should be the ones to get them, they fear that foreign investors will think, hang on a minute, if at any point our government, because some of these investors come from dodgy countries, right? They may fear that some political upheaval in the future means that their assets get frozen, so they will be less inclined to invest in Europe. So we have a similar situation here. You would have to, it would be major change to the law, because it's unconstitutional just to steal. Because like when you have forced, like the government can, for example, you'll have, what do you call them? Compulsory purchase orders. But that isn't stealing. That is you saying you must sell us the land, but they still get the market value for it. So you're not stealing, you're just forcing them to sell. Yeah. But they still get compensated for it. You'd be talking here about actually just stealing the companies. Yeah, you could change the law on this, but it'd be very dodgy and it would crash investment, because foreign investors would go, hang on a minute. What if you decide to use this to steal our assets? Why would we invest billions of pounds in your economy if you could just steal our assets when it became politically expedient? So that would be really self-destructive. You have to operate. The importance of the rule of law is it gives people the confidence to exist in your country and to operate in your country. That is the importance of the rule of law. That is why America turning away from the rule of law is going to kill investment in the United States more than anything. So you have to do it in the way we have to do it. What just needs to happen is Labour just need to be communicating the fact that, for example, these extra bills, they're being ring-fenced, because people might imagine, we're just paying for even more profits, and Labour said no. There is an increase in the bills that's just in line with inflation type of thing. But there's also an increase in the bills to pay for the infrastructure that's ring-fenced. So Labour have set, and they've set it in law, those water companies cannot spend that on dividends or bonuses or anything like that. It's spent on the infrastructure. And if there's anything left over at the end of it, it goes back to the customer. And there was recently a blow-up because Thames Water tried to be cheeky by saying, but hang on a minute, we raised this money on the basis that we would pay bonuses, and then it turned out they'd lied about that, because the people who were lending them the money said, no, we didn't insist on that. And so Steve Reed has blocked it. He said, you're not using this money for bonuses. But Labour should be communicating that.
Yeah, well, then we go back to Labour comms, don't we?
Yeah.
Apparently I'm a Scouser with a chip on my shoulder, and you, my friend, are a Labour apologist.
Okay.
Apparently from someone in the chat. So, are you going to apologise? Are you going to apologise for being a Labour apologist?
Apparently I'm already doing it. Apologise? Well, I'm not.
Well, I don't think
I'm just explaining how things are.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with reasoning. People can, if people want to disagree with my reasoning, they're free to do so.
But you're not even a member of Labour anymore.
No.
And am I right in thinking
I will be again.
Labour aren't quite left-wing enough for you if you're in charge?
Oh, they're plenty. It's the most left-wing Labour government of my lifetime. Again, remember, left-wing is about economic policies.
Would you like them to be
nationalising.
left? Would you like them to be left?
Not if it means losing the election. Like, okay. I am very far to the left, but at the same time, I also understand you've got to win elections, otherwise nothing happens. Well,
the Tories feather the nest, certainly.
Yeah, Labour they're on a programme of nationalisation, the likes of which I've never seen in my lifetime. They've already boosted the pay of people above the level of inflation significantly. At the lowest earners, you've got minimum wage rise, public sector pay rise, pension rise, getting more people onto pension credit. And they are, although people say, why aren't they taxing the rich? They are, but again, people aren't communicating that. I'm not saying it's enough, but they have actually raised tens of billions of pounds extra in taxes. It ain't from ordinary people. They haven't raised taxes on ordinary people by a penny, but they've still raised tens of billions of pounds in extra taxes. Richard Bergen keeps going on about, this wealth tax will raise 24 billion pounds, even though he's talking about the same wealth tax, which in Spain and in Scandinavia, where they have it, raises the equivalent if you scaled it up to our economy, of 1 billion. It doesn't raise that much at all. And yet Rachel Reeves has raised 30 billion pounds in extra taxes on the wealthy, on corporations. No one says a word.
Well, they whinge about it. I've heard lots of corporations whinge about having to pay national insurance.
Exactly. They're moaning about
more
it.
National
They're the only
insurance
ones
on
going. The only place you'll read about Labour taxing the rich is in the Tory press, who are complaining about it. Yeah. You don't read it in anywhere else.
Draconic Drizzt, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Unwritten constitution, I use my magic cylinder trap card, and the law no longer applies, and I end my turn. Seriously though, Phil is correct. Sorry, he was being facetious. He was just being funny. He was just being funny, Phil. But yeah, it's a joke. We've got an unwritten constitution, not worth.
We don't have a codified constitution, which means it is written. It's just not all written in one place.
Ah, there you go. It is written.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Nothing is written. So yeah, we got Paul saying, Phil, don't believe you. They found a way to use it for dividends without doing any investments. But they could do that, but now the law's changed. So if they try and do that, they'll get into trouble with the law.
And Steve Reed has the legal power now to just block any bonuses.
Yes,
which he's already used that power.
On six different companies or 8 different companies?
The law was in place in February. It was passed in February, on the statute books in February. He's already been using that law.
Do you know what's going to be interesting?
No one knows about it because no one's talking about it.
When we have a lot of rain over the summer and there's flooding and there's shit on the streets as a result of these water companies, if any of these execs go to jail. Because they can.
Well, the jail part of it now, they don't go to jail just because they pollute. They will go to jail if they can be criminally prosecuted if they're not taking strong enough action on it. But again, the law's only just come into place, and the law just said we're only at the start of it. So it's like clean slate type of thing. They had to come up with a plan for April, so they've all presumably published their plans now. No one can expect it to turn around overnight. But they'd go to prison if they tried to conceal illegal dumping. Yeah. So as long as they're now upfront about it and don't try and deliberately hide things from the regulator, they won't go to prison. I can't imagine any executive is going to be stupid enough to try and... because that was the problem before, that they were basically just lying. Because there are times when you can legally dump, but they were just lying about it. And it was actually Liz Truss that let them get away with it, because she was the one, when she was Environment Secretary under David Cameron.
Was she Environment Secretary? Oh my God.
Yeah, she was the one who told them. She was the one who told them, all those monitoring stations you've got by the outflows, you don't really need those. We trust you.
Oh my word. She's so
she's responsible for an awful lot of damage.
Uh,
Really?
Big shout out to Dark 4x4. Thank you. Labour already won the election. Refuck be damned. Yes, we do.
Well,
We
I
damn
think-
them.
I think-
Damn them all to hell. But back onto Liz Truss. She was touting was it whiskey that she was touting this week with a guy who had gone to jail for GBH against the pensioner?
All right, I didn't
Did
see
you hear
that
about
bit.
this?
I saw her trying to talk about, again, like they're all doing, Lucy Connolly being a political prisoner, even though it was particularly weird when Suella Braverman did it because she was the Home Secretary who passed the law under which she was prosecuted.
Yeah,
It's her name on the Act of Parliament.
yeah, yeah. There's a bizarre video. Here you go. Bizarre video shows Liz Truss promoting whiskey brand for bare knuckle fighter convicted of attacking a pensioner who was 78 years old.
Wow.
So she's appeared with convicted bare knuckle fighter Doogie Joyce in a promotional video for his Irish whiskey brand, and she can be heard mimicking Joyce's catchphrase, swapping Doogie or Dougie Joyce loves you for Liz Truss loves you, as she displays a bottle of Joyce's Irish whiskey.
Right.
And this is only
Well,
like,
she's just doing anything for money at the moment, isn't she?
I mean,
Doing anything for money.
just what?
It's not like she's going to sell much in terms of like political. Has she done her political memoirs? She did, didn't she? But she turned it's like
10 years to save the
years to
West.
save the West or something. But I don't think that was really memoirs. I don't think you can really do memoirs when. I mean, I actually did have a pop at her on Twitter because she was. Let me see if I can find it.
Being an idiot.
Well, she was. No,
That makes a change.
She said, "I am the only prime minister who has sought to take on the broken system," and I replied, "No, you're the only prime minister who didn't last a full calendar month in office." She didn't respond. I don't know whether she appreciated that comment or not.
But it's very true. Absolutely useless, and it physically pains me that someone that stupid can become prime minister. I think it just undermines the whole value of the United Kingdom as a country. And
Well,
it's a blot. It's a blot on our jota.
It is. I mean, it used to be the case that, there's plenty of thick MPs, but usually most, not all, because you have to have, there's the, political manoeuvring and stuff. You always have to have the odd person in cabinet who's a bit of a cretin. But usually, at least the cream would rise to the top. At least they might not be the ones pursuing the policies you most approve of, but at least they'd be bright. They'd be clever people at the very top. Whereas that is no longer the case.
Yeah.
The fact that you can have Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, the fact you can have Liz Truss as Prime Minister, I mean, like Chris Grayling was a classic case of the old style one, thick as mince, but he was there, and same with Ian Duncan Smith, absolutely thick. But they were there because they were for political manoeuvring, because they represented a significant group of their party's MPs.
Yeah, the thick
so you
ones.
put them in cabinet to keep them on side.
Yeah, the dickheads. Talking of Liz Truss, she was compared to Farage this week, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Or Farage was compared with her.
Yes, exactly.
For their crazy spending agenda of the refuckers. Fantasy economics, as Starmer called it. Do you think this is a good strategy for Labour to just go after refuck and
Liz Truss,
living
because first of all, it's true. I mean, I think Nigel Farage, he's obviously taken the thing, he'll just say it to a load of people, the sort of people he's chasing after. I saw a really good meme on it, actually. Here it is. It's a picture of Nigel Farage, and there's the caption, "Of course our spending commitments can't add up, but neither can my supporters." Ooh. So he's obviously aiming to get that. And then I suppose Labour's strategy will be not so much to use this to get some of those reform supporters back on side, but to galvanise the ones who definitely do not want another Liz Truss. I think it's Labour, it's more the disaffected voters they're probably aiming at, or that's what I would be doing if I was advising them anyway. It's aimed at the disaffected, don't let your disapproval of some of our policies blind you to the fact that if we fail, he's in. And what he proposed last week was literally 10, at least, because I worked it out and there's a huge uncertainty in it, but at the very least, he's talking about 10 Liz Truss's worth of budget hole. at least.
Oh.
The
That sounds
lower
really...
end of the estimate.
Check out my budget hole. Oh, that sounds gruesome. Right, David Smith, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I don't know the show lore. How do you guys know each other? Was it through the party channels, activist circles, or social media? Well, about 3 years ago, I think, I reached out to you on Twitter because I was starting up Labour Social to ask if you wanted to get involved. I think that's the first time that we'd spoken directly, but I've been watching Phil's videos.
No, we did a video together, didn't we, years ago?
Did we? Which one was that?
It was on the EU.
It would have been on the EU. So that would it would have been the anti-Brexit stuff that we both were involved in back in the day when the Brexit wars were still rumbling on. Heady days. But there was a time, I think sort of in the start of 2019, I was really, really optimistic that the wheels were just going to come off this whole Brexit bullshit and it wasn't going to go ahead. And we got to March and we were supposed to leave in March because it had been 2 years since the activation of Article 50 and we didn't leave. And then we had the European elections and it just seemed like up to the point where Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. And even actually the first couple of months when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, he was doing badly.
It took
dead
him
in a
8.
ditch.
He lost his first 7 votes. It took him till the 8th one, and that was something that everyone supported.
Yeah.
It's like he threw it in, I'll do something that'll be popular just so I can win a vote.
But when the idiot leaders of the Lib Dems and Labour at the time agreed to have an election...
it was the Lib Dems and SNP first.
Winter. In the middle of winter. Yeah, we couldn't have got ahead without Labour support, though.
That was it. No, in the end it couldn't. But Corbyn, actually, to be fair to him, was holding firm on that. It was the Lib Dems and SNP that agreed to support them because it needed a special bill to do it. And it was the Lib Dems and SNP who supported that, not Labour.
But didn't Labour vote for it, though?
Only because they had to be fair to them, because otherwise it looks like you're running away from the fight. And if it's going to happen anyway, you can't look like you're trying to stop an election. What Corbyn was to blame for was much later on. So what the SNP and Lib Dems tried to do was try to have it so they also lowered the voting age to 16, but Berko at the time, the speaker, said, well, no, it's not, you can't do that sort of amendment for this sort of bill. So they couldn't get it. So then the Lib Dems and SNP going, well, shit, we don't want the election then. And I know from MPs at the time that saying they were absolutely screaming on the night itself of the vote. The numbers were there to defeat it. They just needed Corbyn to tell his MPs to vote against it, and it would have been. And they were absolutely screaming at him to give the order out, and he wouldn't do it. For whatever reason, I don't know the reason, but
I know the reason.
So, well, you might. Yeah, I don't, and I've spoken to MPs about it, so you might speculate.
Yeah, but
I don't. He didn't want the election. Corbyn, I don't think, wanted the election. Yeah. He knew he was going to lose. He was always going to lose.
I don't think he knew he was going to lose. You were talking about Liz Truss being not too bright.
Okay. Well,
I've heard there's some people who've worked with the previous leader who have let me know that
nonetheless
wasn't particularly
for whatever reason he could have stopped it at that point, but it was initially the fault of the Lib Dems and the SNP.
Yeah. It was November 2019, and I was just like, and as soon as it was announced that the election was going ahead,
and the worst part of it was, again, I know from MPs at the time, as far as MPs were concerned, there were only 2 ways to break the deadlock: a general election, and if that couldn't be sorted, it would have been the second referendum. So we would have had the second referendum with Remain as an option.
Yeah,
because as far as MPs were concerned, it had gone on too long, and something needed to break it.
Yeah.
They attempted to do it by getting Boris Johnson in charge and going for an election. If that didn't work, they were going to go for their second referendum because they couldn't drag it on any longer.
Anyway, let's move on because otherwise I'll get too ratty. But yeah, so I want to talk a little bit. I know we're running out of time, but Labour's sort of spending shift towards the Red Wall or the North in general. 15 billion finally going to be spent on public services.
This is in addition. Public transport, in addition to what's already been spent. But this is fantastic news because in the North, I don't know about you, Phil, but in general, I get really, really ratty about the way that the public transport is in the North. I go down to London and it's fucking amazing. And they get a London bonus
Their buses are capped at what, 150 is it for a bus journey down in London? Here it's 250. I don't get a London bonus. Explain that to me.
I don't know. Honestly, in all honesty, like transport, because I don't go anywhere, I'm a hermit. I don't really. I show interest in transport policy issues sometimes when they come up, but it's not really my thing that I spend a lot of time looking at. You'll do that much more than I do.
Yeah, well, this is very, very welcome. And then seeing so much money being spent on HS2, which I agree the concept of, but the problem was they played it as a zero-sum game. They were like, well, we can't give any more money to the North because we're building HS2. And so that just sucked all of the political oxygen and all of the money, the funding, billions. Because it started, it was like 7 billion, back in 2003 when it was first promoted. It was going to just cost a few billion to make.
Yeah.
And that ballooned to over 100 billion pounds, billion with a B, to build this one train line in the maddest possible way that they could possibly build it. Because it was like going through the Tories' backyards and they were like, oh, I don't want a railway. You've got to put it in a tunnel under the ground. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, I had someone in comments, because I'm talking about the fact that, Rishi Sunak scrapped it, and someone said to me, well, it's still going ahead. It's still going to connect London and Birmingham. And I said, the point of it was to connect the North and the South.
Yeah.
And even that London to Birmingham line, the only reason that is going to actually meet at both ends is because Labour have gone, well, we might as well finish that bit off. Because Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives, at the point of view of the last election, they were just thinking of leaving it.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll sort of go somewhere close to Birmingham, somewhere close to London. We'll just leave it at that. It's only Labour that have come in and gone, well, we might as well bloody well finish that bit at least.
Yeah. Did you read about like the landowners who did really well out of getting their land bought by the government, compulsory purchased for the route from Manchester, from Birmingham up to Manchester? And one of them was none other than wife beater in general himself, Stanley Johnson, the father of Boris Johnson, who only beat his wife so badly she ended up in hospital once. He only did it once, We've got to be fair. He only did it once. Yeah. As Fiona Thingy from bloody Fiona Bruce from Question Time was in great pains to tell us. Dark 4x4, thank you very much for the super chat, £2. Strongest candidate for leader of the opposition is Ed Davis. Fear it, I wouldn't fear him. I would really welcome him as the opposition leader.
His questions are actually they're actually quite constructive.
All of Lucy Willis says Russia has offered Musk asylum. Is that true? Did you just make that up?
It doesn't matter. They've kissed and made up already by the looks of it.
Have they?
They've both backed down. Yeah, so first of all, I saw the White House was sending people to like broker peace talks. That's so Trump backed down. And then Musk has been more publicly saying he's more than happy to, to like come to an arrangement with them. So they're basically both backed down.
Yeah, but Trump, since we started, has described Musk as the man who has lost his mind.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
And he's not particularly...
Has he now ruined another video? Doesn't matter.
They're having conflicting reports on a Trump-Musk call, whether it actually happened or not.
Well, no, I think the impression is it hasn't happened. There are go-betweens. I think there are go-betweens.
And he's he's not particularly interested in speaking to Elon Musk, following reports the pair would hold a phone call later.
They can both do each other a lot of damage.
Yes, I hope so. And we will sit there in the sidelines eating popcorn and laughing and pointing and laughing and pointing and laughing some more. But yeah, Trump's not planning to speak to Musk today. It's rumbling on, Phil. It's rumbling on.
Yeah.
But I do the watch party for PMQs each week.
Yeah.
I checked this week. Every single question that any of the Lib Dems asked were bloody sensible. They were really good. SNP, half of them are good, half of them are fucking shite. They're just someone saying, "Oh, you're a bunch of knobheads. Why are you such a gang of knobheads?"
What I would say in the defence of various other opposition, there's a fundamental difference between the Lib Dems and literally everyone else. The Lib Dems are not in competition with Labour. So the Lib Dems are in competition with the Conservatives and the SNP, not really so much Labour. So they can be more constructive. Everyone else is in direct competition with Labour. Yeah. So a bit of party politics, I wouldn't paint it as the Lib Dems are more reasonable in general. Like every political party is both reasonable and party political in equal measure. You just have to understand the dynamics. Like the Lib Dems aren't trying to beat Labour; they're trying to beat the Tories mostly, and they've got a very good chance of doing so.
Well, I hope so.
Because there's various positions that are very appealing in those Lib Dem Tory areas that the Tories are like. There's a report just come out talking about the importance of climate issues. The Lib Dems could lean into that. A lot of those areas are fully seized of the need for climate action, and this is why I say about James Cleverly stepping up to talk about this issue, because Kemi Badenoch's trying to take the Conservatives in the opposite direction, and it's taking her away from those voters.
Yeah.
She's trying to appeal. This is where I think Badenoch's going badly wrong. So she's looking at Farage. The anti-net zero stuff. Now, that anti-net zero stuff can work in some areas that Farage is targeting, but they're the Labour areas, not the Conservative areas. And that's what she's misunderstanding. Because the Conservatives are losing loads of votes to Reform UK, she's therefore saying she's got to block him off on all of those various policies without trying to work out which are the policies that matter in the... She's not aware of her own target areas or what those people think. Now, the first thing Labour did when Starmer was in charge is they carried out a process of finding out what are our target areas and what sort of people are in them and what do they think. Conservatives aren't doing that.
Yeah.
So they're making all sorts of missteps.
Also, talking of missteps, maybe, the two-child benefit cap. This is something that's come back into the news this week with... Angela Rayner hinting that the cap might be scrapped.
It's very likely to be. I think we already had a report that Starmer had pretty much said
to bring Farage into this. He said he wants it gone
because he wants to be able to say, because he knows that it'll take time for Labour to be able to announce it, and it's a win-win for him because if autumn, late summer, autumn or something, if they do it, he can say they've just done it because they were afraid of us. We were the ones that came up with it first. And if they don't do it, it's still win-win because it would be popular to do. But I think I got the impression that Starmer's pretty much told the Treasury find a way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that seems pretty self-evident to me as well. But like allowing refuck to take, whenever you leave, you have a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If we don't talk about this thing, the two-child cap, you're going to have refuck turn up and say, we should get rid of that. But interestingly, Kemi Badenoch brought this up in PMQs, weirdly, and said, well, obviously, we think that the cap should stay in there. Okay, so why are you having a go at Starmer for thinking of, staying in keeping it? I just
she doesn't know what she's doing.
She's really bad at it.
Yeah, I mean there's no way. Like, you will never stop Reform UK doing that sort of trick, though, because you will always find out that Labour are thinking about doing something before they can announce they've done it, because they've got to think about it. They've got to make sure they can do it. So that's always a trick you can employ if you want. I don't think that will work for Farage, though, because at the end of the day, you're years out from the election. When it comes to the election, people will mostly judge on what you've done.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if Rishi Sunak had done some of the popular things Labour and the Lib Dems were suggesting in his final couple of years, he would have still got the credit for doing them. It wouldn't really matter who came with it. Obviously, you try to tell the public, but we're the ones who are coming up with these ideas. They're just following us. If we were in government, we would be the ones who did it more quickly. I mean, as far as most people are concerned, if you're talking about something that happened some years ago, it doesn't matter whether it happened 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So anything Labour do now, if they get things right now over the next year, it'll be fine for the election. Because at the next election, people are more than happy to go, they had a few missteps, but they came good in the end. What they can't be doing is still messing up as you get close to the election.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Optimistic Nihilist, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Elon Musk is only going to become more extreme, not less. He'll raise hell. And he doesn't care about anything but himself. He doesn't act in his own interest either. He's stupid, evil, but dangerous. Absolutely couldn't agree more. And Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Just ate my first biltong. Wow, thanks, Graham. Well, don't thank me. It was Scott Williams last night. He had some biltong. Which is South African beef jerky, and it's fucking great. I'd also recommend Australian Anzac biscuits and Lamingtons, and although that might be from New Zealand, and Arnott Shapes. And it looks like Jacobs, who make the crackers in Liverpool, it looks like they've made their own version of Arnott Shapes. So look out for them because they're fucking brilliant.
Are they like animal shapes?
No, it's imagine like a small, imagine like a thinner cream cracker, and it's got like flavoring on it, so that you can get like barbecue flavor. In Australia, you can get like pizza flavored shapes, and it's just a crunchy, savory snack. But they're absolutely brilliant. Couldn't recommend them enough. Anyway, Full Music said he should do a Buddha social mobility and leave the palace to become homeless. Yes.
Who's this?
Buddha, he was a prince. Buddha was a prince. He could call his dad. He could stop it all. I'll be lambasting him for being part of the private school mafia if he was around today. Old Buddha, because it's very easy to give up your worldly possessions and walk around as a homeless.
Who should leave the palace? Who should do a Buddha?
Buddha.
Yeah,
Elon Musk. Elon Musk.
Oh right.
I think he should do a Buddha, leave the palace and become homeless.
Well, he'd have to become enlightened first.
I don't think that's possible. He's taken too many drugs.
He has. His brain's gone.
Yeah.
It's like a malevolent Ozzy Osbourne now.
Lamington's that Cadbury chocolate. It's not Cadbury. It's like a cake. It's like a coconut cake stuff. It's really.
I
nice.
like coconut.
Oh yeah, it's all good. Should Starmer be replaced?
No.
Honestly,
no. Like there's
why
so
not?
many problems.
Tell us why not.
So there's the pros to keeping him as well as cons to get rid of him. The cons to get rid of him really easy. First of all, Labour look chaotic. Yeah. Whoever replaces him has to do the same things anyway.
Yeah.
Because they promised to do these things. He's not really, it would look chaotic. We don't know that anyone else has got his like organisational abilities. You might have certain. Well, I like this person, so therefore everyone else in the country will like them. Well, they might not. We know, for example, Angela Rayner really divides opinion. Like really, Neil Kinnock used to say that his problem was he was Marmite to John Major's marmalade. Some people loved him, some people hated him, and it's the same with Angela Rayner. There's just a lot of snobbery in the country. It's got nothing to do with her or how she is. There's just a lot of snobbery. They're not going to vote. There's a lot of people who will not vote for someone who says secretary. So, and then you think about others as well. Like, there isn't anyone obvious, and it would look chaotic. And also the advantages are, like at the moment, where Starmer's getting it wrong, he's not a politician, so he is relying on advice more than other politicians generally. You obviously have to rely on advice, but prime ministers usually have their own political instincts, right? He doesn't, and he knows he doesn't. He's conscious of that. Now, he thinks because Morgan McSweeney basically helped build his project from start to finish, that he has a lot of trust in McSweeney, and it's taken him it's a bit like if you've got a really close friend and they've helped you out a lot in the past and stuff like that, and then they suddenly sort of, they're selling you down the river type thing. It takes you longer to realise that actually they're a bit of a problem now. I think it's the same sort of thing. So we'll just have to see what happens. But it's like, it doesn't solve anything to get rid of him. Like, who do you get rid of him for? Yeah. Get Andy Burnham a safe seat. Andy Burnham, no, look, he's really good as mayor of Manchester. The man's a snake.
Ooh.
He had his chance as well. He had his chance. He was an MP, a senior MP.
Yeah,
he was right.
He ran for leader. He ran for leader against Corbyn in 2015. I voted for him.
He is someone who just says what people want to. Like the stuff he's saying now. And don't get me wrong, he is progressive, but the stuff he's saying it because he's got that ambition. He's just saying whatever he needs to say to get support. The he's a good mayor. I absolutely leave him where he is, doing a brilliant job. But he's a snake. You won't get what you think you get from him.
Okay. Simon, thank you very much. Simon Hughes, great surname. Lamingtons are Australian, Pavlovas from New Zealand, speaking as a Kiwi. First time commenting here. I really enjoy Phil analysing. Oh my God. So thanks very much, Simon, and good day. Oh no, I'm joking. You're from New Zealand. It's the other one. Kia ora. There you go. See, I learned something. Yeah, but it means hi, doesn't it? In
Does
it's a greeting in Maori.
Okay.
I think. I might be wrong. I think Ubla Di, Ubla Da is a greeting in some parts of Nigeria. Yeah, the Beatles song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life goes on. La la la. Anyway, Nick says Starmer's doing a convincing job of suppressing his pro-EU instincts. Well, to be honest with you,
They're very pro-EU.
I
They're
think
right,
that,
explicitly pro-EU.
I think Labour's done quite well as a dyed in the wool Ramona, whatever you want to call me. I'm glad that they've done it this way, because if they'd gone in full like let's reopen the Brexit thing again, they wouldn't have won the election.
Yeah. I mean, part of me is curious, but at the same time, yeah, this was the safer option. I'm still disappointed in their attitude towards customs union, because particularly now that I know they're not using decent polling data to inform their views of what the public will and will not allow them to do. So that's now making me start to doubt a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the customs union, because I genuinely do not, I can guess, but I've not seen anything that says the public would not back a customs union.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they definitely would back it, but I've not seen anything to suggest not. And now I'm wondering if Labour could think, if it was possible for them to think that the public had bought into pain before improvement, when I'd seen polling that said that even Labour voters straight after the election, it was polling that came out in the summer, and it had said that people expect improvements pretty bloody quickly, really quickly, in fact. So yeah, I'm actually wondering if there's too much policy making by empirical thinking rather than actually finding out.
Hang on, policy making by empirical thinking. What? I don't understand.
Where you're not really basing it on cold hard data. You're just based on what you know and you reason it through.
I thought empirical data was hard data. Oh my god, this is where Phil's going to pull rank as a scientist.
It's where you're
what's
not
the
getting
difference
yourself
between
primary
empirical
data.
Okay, what's the difference between
It's just
empirical?
stuff we already know, instead of going out and finding out something specifically for what you're trying to work out.
So gravity would be empirical then, because we know that that's there and it's had experiments done on it already. So you don't have to take that into account when you do another experiment. Is that it?
I mean, in terms of it existing, I guess, but
Yeah.
then Newton did then work out calculations based on it for which he needed his own data.
Yes, with a little bit of help from Robert Hooke. Yeah. So okay. Well, yeah. All right. And Will says, was it in the chat about 3 or 4 MPs who did Liz Truss? I don't know. Nick says, as long as the red lines remain, it's still lipstick on a hard Brexit.
It's not, because you've got to do all these. If they'd have come straight out and go, do you know what, we want to rejoin the EU in the next 10 years, they'd still be doing basically the same things, because you still had to go through the same process. We still have to build trust with the EU. Remember, we still haven't even implemented the last bloody agreement we had with them.
Yeah.
The winter framework. Thankfully, we shouldn't have to do all of that now. But
also,
you still have to go through these steps.
Do you know what the best thing they've done is? It's the yearly meetings, because they put this meeting off to discuss going forward with the EU for 5 years. So that came in 2020, and they said, right, we're going to leave it for 5 years before we even discuss any changes or anything like that. And in that time, we've had COVID, we've had the invasion of Ukraine, we had the re-election of Trump, we've had the tariffs slapped on all of us. So doing a yearly summit, a meeting where the politicians sit down, and at each one of those summits, they're going to want to show something for it.
Exactly.
And none of them are going to end in them going, we've decided to consciously uncouple ourselves forever again for some reason.
No.
They're going to want something
that's
positive
exactly
to take
it.
home.
Yes, there'll be an expectation of progress.
Yeah, so that's the best thing they've done, and like I say, as a Remoner, I am hopeful. I'm very hopeful in the way they're doing it, and I realise you've got to get people on side. There's not enough people at the moment who are clamouring for us to get back into the EU. Maybe there will be in 5 years' time. Maybe there will be in 10 years' time. I don't know, but I'm going to keep fighting for it. I'll be there.
It's inevitable. Just the way the demographics are going, it doesn't matter where the politics is going. The demographics are going that way. It is. Yes, there were people of all age groups that voted for Leave, but it was mostly the Boomer generation.
Yeah,
it was mostly the Boomer generation, and every year some of them are dying off. More young people are coming online. The majority of them are pro EU. They don't have that fear of it. And increasingly, we're going to be finding that the economy is going to struggle more and more due to various issues, not the least of which is Brexit.
Yeah.
It's just going that way. It's inevitable.
It is
really is just
inevitable. No, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So just all in all, do you see where Labour... See how, if you've plotted this on a graph, and you like graphs, I would see Labour's sort of popularity and direction going down and down and down, going in the wrong way, heading towards the iceberg. And now, since the local election, they seem to have sat down and gone, oh shit, we need to start doing stuff that's going to make us popular again. And unfortunately, we're seeing more stuff that is more palpable for the rest of us.
So it was always the if you're referring to the fact that they're now starting to announce things that are like spending boosts, which are the more popular stuff, that was always the plan anyway. It was.
Why did they wait till after the election? Why did they do it before?
Well, they have to wait because they have to wait for the spending review.
That's next month, isn't it?
Yeah. So they couldn't rush that. Like they're only announcing a few things now because the spending review is almost done. They couldn't announce anything before it was pretty much like. So they're announcing a few things now, but so these things had to. That's what I mean about you know, people wanted this change really quickly, but you couldn't have it that quickly. But they're still not learning lessons. The only improvement that there's been since the local elections, they at least accept that the polling is really shit. Because when it first started going down, they just thought, oh, it's because we're having to front load with all the unpopular stuff. It'll be fine once the delivery comes out. It'll be fine. And there's an extent to which that's true, as long as all people were pissed off about was the cost of things, right? But they were also pissed off about some specific policies, and they didn't seem to understand that.
Yeah.
So it still remains to be seen whether they're actually bothering. Now, they might be learning lessons. They may actually be deciding maybe we should do some fucking polling. You know, maybe that's what they're doing, and that will take time to do it properly and have it properly analysed by data scientists instead of some monkey who's never seen a bar chart the right way up. But we can't know that. Again, we just have to give it time and see if they start to improve. But we always knew from this point on, after the first year, that they would have thought they've done the unpopular stuff, and they will just then be talking about the popular stuff, the spending boost, the project starting, the spades in the ground type of thing. You know, that was always the plan.
Yeah.
But that itself, you know, you still have to you have to stop people talking about your unpopular stuff. Otherwise, that's all they'll talk about.
Yes. But maybe if they set their own agenda instead of waiting for everyone else to toot their horn for them, no one's.
And then you hear about red wall Labour MPs going, "Oh, we've got to stop the small boats, otherwise we'll get eaten by Reform UK." It's like, though, in those red wall areas, I live in one. The small boats are not actually the issue. We're inland. Never seen a fucking boat in our lives. The issues are getting a GP, housing, jobs. Those are the issues. That's it. Transport. Those are the issues. They're the things that people are convinced are the fault of immigrants, but those are the actual issues. You tackle those. But also, if you are going to tackle small boats, you tackle it by building a processing centre in northern France. If you're not prepared to do that, you're not going to solve them.
No.
You're not going to solve it by getting rid of the smuggling gangs, because new smuggling gangs, it's very lucrative. We've made it lucrative. New gangs will emerge. We did this. Yvette Cooper's even said so. In a select committee hearing this week. You know, basically it's because we don't have this. Well, it was put to her, but she agreed. It's because we don't have the Dublin Agreement anymore. So we can't, you know, half of the people who are claiming asylum in this country have claimed asylum in another European country. So really, they, you know, should have stayed there. But we don't have the Dublin Agreement anymore, so we can't send them there. Unless that country, we can go to them. We can say, "Oh, Prime Minister Maloney, would you like to take back a load of these refugees?" To which she'll go,
"No."
Yeah, but if they were being taken back to a processing centre that we were paying for the maintenance of and the upkeep of,
exactly,
that would be acceptable to, say, the French.
Maybe negotiations to be
No,
had.
it would. They've
Let's
said so.
Have the conversation. Let's have the
They've said so.
conversation. MZ, thank you so much for the 5 Politics Social gift memberships. That is very, very kind of you. Now, Sean, Gina Lefty Boza is now a member. So is Chris Mack and David J and Gary Arnold. You are all now members of the channel. If anyone else would like to join the channel, just press the join button, and you can join on behalf. Oh, why is the join button not working? Oh, it's because it's not turned on. There you go. You press the join button, and you can join for other people. You can do a gift membership. It's cool. I'll find out things you can do on here. It's all excellent. So, Phil, I'm gonna have to get going. I'll be back at 9:30 this evening with the Friday Night Social. Big thank you to Phil Moorhouse from A Different Bias. If you want to go over to his channel and subscribe now, that would be a cool thing to do. And big shout out to everyone who has dropped some super chats in there, dropped some Politics Social gift memberships, and anyone who just dropped a line for us. We love you all. Well done. Thank you. And give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.